Maybe you turn to Ecclesiastes chapter 9. Just a few weeks we'll be through with Ecclesiastes. And I'll be looking at, I may start with a series on, I don't know if I'm going to do it on Sunday mornings or Sunday evenings, but a series on seeing Christ throughout the Scriptures and looking at how Christ is revealed not only in the Old Testament, but also as we look back in the New Testament, how he becomes the central figure of all the Bible. But tonight, we want to look at the passage. Let me make sure I have it. On Ecclesiastes chapter 9, we're going to look at the whole chapter. And let me read that as we start off tonight, because I always believe that it's good just to read the Scriptures. That the Scriptures have power in and of themselves. The Bible says that the Scriptures, it is the power of God unto salvation for all those who believe. And so the gospel is simply the Scriptures being read. It is the Scriptures being declared and saying that it's good news, because that's what the gospel is. So in Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 1, read along with me in your copy of God's Word tonight. But all this I laid to heart, examining it all, how the righteous and the wise and their deeds are in the hand of God. Whether it is love or hate, man does not know, both are before him. It is the same for all, since the same event happens to the righteous and the wicked, to the good and the evil, to the clean and the unclean, to him who sacrifices and him who does not sacrifice. The good one is, so is the sinner. He who swears is as he who shuns an oath. This is an evil in all that is done under the sun, that the same event happens to all. Also, the hearts of the children of man are full of evil, and madness is in their hearts while they live, and after that they go to the dead. But he who is joined with all the living has hope. For a living dog is better than a dead lion. And for the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing, and they have no more reward, for their memory of them is forgotten. Their love and their hate and their envy have already perished, and forever they have no more share in all that is done under the sun. Go, eat your bread with joy. Drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already approved what you do. Let your garments be always white. Let not oil be lacking on your head. Enjoy life, while the wife whom you love, all the days of your vain life that he has given you under the sun, because that is your portion in life and in your toil, at which you toil under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might, for there is no work or thought or knowledge or wisdom in Sheol, to which you are going. Again, I saw under the sun, the race is not to the swift, nor to the battle to the strong, nor bread to the wise, nor riches to the intelligent, nor favor to those with knowledge. But time and chance happen to them all. For man does not know this time. Like fish that are taken in an evil net, and like birds that are caught in a snare, so the children of man are snared at an evil time when it suddenly falls upon them. I have also seen this example of wisdom under the sun. It seems great to me. There was a little city with few men in it, and a great king came against it and besieged it, building a great sedgeworks against it. But there was found in it a poor, wise man, and he by his wisdom delivered the city. Yet no one remembered that poor man. But I say that wisdom is better than might, though the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard. The words of the wise, heard in quiet, are better than the shouting of rulers among fools, of a ruler among fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. Will you pray with me? Heavenly Father, we come and we ask that you would bless now. You do bless your word. We know that. We claim that. We believe that. And Father, I pray that it would be an encouragement to all of us as we come before your throne and we come before you worshiping now, that is no different than when we worshiped in music or worshiped in prayer or worshiped in giving. I pray that you would be blessed by our hearts, that you would be happy, Lord, that we gather together to read and declare your name. And I pray that in Jesus' name. Amen. The last 2 hours we watched a video and in Financial Peace University. I think the only person here that watched it was my son with me. But in it was a story. And Dave Ramsey tells a story, and I wanted to share this with you because I think that when we live, we have to live with the same intensity. And he calls it gazelle intensity. And the reason why he says that is because his daughter, one of his daughters, was, in rodeo you have calf roping. Y'all have ever seen calf roping? Y'all have, right? Well, I mean, the cowboy is behind the stall, and then the calf goes out, and the calf goes, or he's running as fast as he can. Man, he thinks he's getting away. And all of a sudden, the lasso gets around his neck. Now, he doesn't know this yet, but he's caught. And all of a sudden, he's running and running, and that lasso is around his neck, and all of a sudden, boing! All of a sudden, he stops. The cowboy gets off that horse, and that cowboy gets down, and he pulls, because he's already rolling backwards. He turns him backwards, and he ties the feet up, and he wraps them around. Well, Dave Ramsey's daughter, girls have a similar event in rodeo, but it's not with calves. It's with goats. And his story, he tells the story that his daughter got a goat, and his name was Practice, because she would practice on this goat. And she would practice on this goat about 15 to 20 times a day. And so she would let the goat out, or she would be on the horse and she'd kick the goat. And the goat would start running off, and it probably thought he says it was a gazelle. I mean, it was just flying down the way, and all of a sudden she lassoed the goat, and the goat kept running and running as the cord was going out of that rope and going out of that horse and everything like that. All of a sudden the rope ended, and the goat went doing again, and of course she gets off the horse and she ropes it down and ties the feet up and like that. Well, before long, there became, he says, as the practice went on, and it went, 30 or 40 times a day, and goats aren't very smart. They keep doing the same thing. But he said, eventually the goat, there was this place in their pasture that was kind of bare, because they would always be about the same place. The goat would be caught, and the goat would be tied up, and the goat would be bound up. Well, the goat was figuring stuff out, because before long, it got to the patch of grass and it stopped. It just stopped. And eventually, he says, the goat would get to the patch of grass and just lie down already. And they said, man, if you could take this goat and do this at where you were competing, you'd break all records, because the goat would just lie down. They figured, what's the use? And he says the goat had lost hope. Just said he gave up. I'm not going to try to get away. I'm not going to try to conquer anything. I'm not going to try to live for anything. I'm not going to try to overcome anything in my life anymore. I'm just going to go and lie down and give up. And I'm afraid that's the way we are. He then shows a clip of a gazelle. And a gazelle in the wild has to have some intensity, because if a cheetah shows up, it has to get out of there. And the only way that a gazelle can achieve and get rid of the predator is they have to, with all the intensity, they have to run and run and run and run and run. They can't give up. They can't lose hope. Now, a lot of times, of course, the cheetah is one of the fastest animals in the world, right? It can go from, what do they say? I think the video said that it can go from 0 to 47 miles an hour in 4 leaps. That's pretty quick. If you're thinking about that, that might be quicker than your car, going from 0 to 47 miles an hour. Depends how old your car is and how quick your car is. But that's pretty quick. And what he was saying is that sometimes in living, and it was applying it to financial debt, but I think in the idea of spiritual living, it goes in everything. We have to get mad at what gets God mad, and that is sin. We have to get mad at what gets God upset, and that is rebellion and unwise counsel from false people. You have to get mad at it. Because you're never going to defeat sin in your life. You're never going to overcome either a particular sin or a lifestyle of sin unless you get mad. You got to want to change. I think the author realizes that he didn't have all the answer. That's Solomon. But he's saying, listen, if I just look under the sun, it's futility. It's, again, this idea of futility. It's like that goat that just gave up. It seems like that's what the Ecclesiastes is all about. No hope. Why live? Because if you're not, I'll tell you this, if you're not living, you're dying. You see, God's ways are not always our ways. We don't understand everything from God's perspectives. We're not understanding all the meanings and purposes of life. It seems like when the good people fail and bad people succeed, we kind of get depressed. We eventually, some of us may have given up hope. People commit suicide. We've given up hope. I'll say that's a wrong perspective of the world. It's a wrong perspective of life. But if you're going to live life under the sun, why live? We have to have hope to live. The reason why you live and you're still living and you're still wanting to live and you're wanting to move forward is because there's hope, isn't there? There's hope that things will be different. Hope that things may change. Hope that you'll be able to do something different in the future than you're doing now. Hope that you can enjoy some of the things of life still. And when you lose hope, you stop living. I want to read the passage today from the perspective of gaining back your hope. Gaining back your hope and keep living. Because again, if you're not living, you're dying. You're on the downward spiral. What we want to do is have people live. We want people living, excited to be in God's house with others. That there would be a commotion. That the world would say, what's going on there? Why are they singing with such gusto? Why are they so excited about being together? Most people can't get along with their own family. Why are they so excited being together? Do they all smell differently or something? And so let me give you about 5 different ways, 5 or let me say 6 different ways that we can keep hope in our life, that we can keep on living. We can keep on living. The first one is found in verse 1. And I'd say the first way we keep on living, the first way we continue to have hope is to see life in the hands of God. Look what it says. It says, but all this I laid to heart, examining it all, how the righteous and the wise and their deeds are in the hands of the Lord. Whether it is love or hate, man does not know. Both are before him. He's saying, no matter what's happening, no matter if people are loving or hateful or whatever's going on in your life, whatever is coming into your life, it's all in God's hands. In a little song we sing, He has the whole world in His hands, is absolutely true. And God has everything in His hands. And the reason why people don't trust a God that has everything in His hands is because they don't think God is good. Or they don't think God is loving in some sense. Oh, they'll say He's loving, yes, but there's something better than God. There's something better that happens outside of God's will for my life. And we have to understand that if we believe that God is sovereign, we believe that everything He has in His hand has to be good, and it has to be good for us. In fact, that there is nothing better for us than His sovereign plan. In fact, even when we have difficulty, and say, for instance, you get up in the morning and you're late for work, and guess what? Your car doesn't start. You can become, I don't know about you, but a lot of people can become, or I could become pretty grouchy. Let me just put it that way. You know what I mean? And you have those days that you plan to do this and this, and nothing seemed to work out. That's what the author here, that's what Solomon is saying. Listen, he's doing it again from the perspective under the sun. But he's saying, listen, we have to understand that the deeds of our life are in God's hand. Whether it is love, whether it is hate, whatever is going on, there's something good about it. Let me ask you this. The most popular verse in the Bible nowadays has changed. It used to be John 3:16. It's now Romans 8:28. You know that verse, don't you? For God causes all things to work for good for those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. That's supposed to be the most popular or the most beloved verse in the Bible when I guess Gallup was taking a survey of believers. That's of believers today. They've changed. It used to be John 3:16, but now it's Romans 8:28. Maybe it's because we've been through a period of hopelessness. And people need to see God as being good, and all that He's done is for your benefit and for good. Because if you think there is something other than God that is better for you or has something better for you, you're going to chase that God, which is a little g. Life is impossible to explain apart from God. I don't know how people do it. There's no way someone can look at the world and understand what is going on in the world and have hope apart from God. Either they bury their head in the sand, they say, I'm just going to go through life and I'll just grit it out, or they lose hope and they're like that gazelle. They stop, they lie down, they turn over and say, what's the use? I want to tell you tonight, there's a lot of use. There's a reason for you to have hope. That's because it's all in God's hands. Secondly, tonight, the reason why you can have hope and the reason why you can keep on living is that life does end, but there's something more than just living this life. Life does end, but life goes on. Look at verses 2 and verse 3. Because the end of life for everybody is the same. It says, it's the same for all, since the same event happens to the righteous and the wicked, to the good and the evil, the clean and the unclean, to him who sacrifices and him who does not sacrifice. As the good one is, so is the sinner. And he who swears, as he who shuns an oath. This is an evil in all that is done under the sun. Because most people would think that I deserve better. That I deserve something different than someone who basically who's unrighteous. We think the person who's a good person should have a life better than the person who doesn't have life or doesn't have righteousness, who's rebelling. Why does things happen? The old book. How do bad things happen to good people? Well, we have to get in our mind there's really no good person. In our merit before God, that we all, like filthy rags, we stand before God without any merit before God. I don't care what we do, even as Christians. God doesn't love us because He sees how good we are. If we could contribute anything to our salvation, one pastor says the only thing we can contribute to our salvation is our sin. You have to get to a point where you say, listen, yes, death comes to everyone just the same way. And it seems not fair. Because it seems like we should get a little bit better in this life, shouldn't it? But brothers and sisters, we don't know what the next life is going to be like. I want you to think of heaven. Whatever happened to heaven? Whatever happened to living for heaven? Whatever happened to living for things that are eternal? Yes, this life we end the same way, he says. Whether we are clean or unclean, whether we are wicked or good or evil, whether we are people who obey the oaths we take or shuns an oath. But it's the same thing that happening to all, it says. It says also the hearts of the children of man are full of evil. So we can't say, oh, there's an innocent one over here, or there's an innocent one over here, or here's one who is innocent. No, when we stand before God, everybody's guilty. We all stand guilty before our Heavenly Father. We all stand guilty before a God who has made us and told us how we should live. But the reason for hope is that we all die, but this is not our home. That's number two. This place was never made to hold our affections, to grip ourselves. This place was temporary. This is a temporary place. We're pilgrims. We're aliens. Yes, we have citizenship here on earth while we're living. But doesn't James say that this life is like a vapor? It's like grass that today is alive, or a flower today is alive and gone tomorrow. We're here for such a short time with regard to eternity. And of course, Solomon says, listen, it's vanity. It seems like things don't work out in this world. It doesn't work out because everybody dies. I want to tell you, there is a world to come. And that world is going to be wonderful and marvelous. I want you to just think of how you're going to enjoy heaven. You're in love with God. And you keep learning about God and who He is and how great He is. And you're so excited about it. You know, it'd be like for the world, having everything they want. The world can have everything they want, and it doesn't compare to heaven. I don't understand the imagery of streets of gold, and I don't understand the idea of the new heavens and the new earth completely. I mean, we're getting glimpses of that, and we see the new earth coming down out of heaven. But I believe that we actually reside on earth. See, heaven is just a temporary place. It's a paradise. But I believe that heaven is on earth, that heaven will be, that we will be actually human beings with bodies, our renewed bodies that never pass away. Just think about that. Think about that you're not going to have any sicknesses or diseases. Think about that. There are going to be bodies that don't wear out. You could run all day for the glory of God if you want it. That's a great thing, isn't it? That's number two. If you're going to have hope, if you have hope in this life, you need to see everything is in God's hands. And secondly, you need to see that heaven, I'll just put it this way, heaven is better than here. Because we're all going to die. And we're all going to have reason for hope. You see, it doesn't matter if a man is righteous or wicked, clean or unclean. Death is a great equalizer. Some people say it's not fair, but let me tell you this. There are things that are going to last forever. And I'd say this. Now, it's most notably we said God, the Word of God, and the souls of men last forever. But I believe your works that are done out of faith, our testimonies to God, will last forever. I believe that what you do out of faith, what you do out of your trust in God, what do you do in spending your life and giving your life for? For God, for the ministry of the Word of God, and for the souls of men. And that can happen in any place. I said before that basically the church and the movement of the church is a Bible reading movement. It can happen anywhere. It can happen here in a official gathering of a local church. It can happen in your home as you invite people over for Diet Coke and Domino's. It could happen at your school as you eat lunch with a neighbor or a coworker across the table and you read the Bible together. It could happen as you go to a concert and people sing the Word of God. It could happen at a prayer meeting where people pray the Word of God. It could happen all over the place, in every given instance. And those things last forever. Thirdly, let me tell you the benefits of living. The benefits of living rather than living like you're dying. One person says, we need to be living like dying men. We need to be living and enjoying life like dying men and thinking about all the benefits of life. He says this in verses, I believe, verses 4 through 6. He says these. But he who is joined with all the living has hope. For the living dog is better than a dead lion. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing, and they have no more reward. For the memory of them is forgotten. Their love and their hate and their envy have already perished, and forever they will have no more share in all that is done under the sun. Again, this is the under sun perspective. But as you add the above sun perspective, God has created everything for us to enjoy because He created it. There's the benefit of hope. So again, I said the reason why this whole passage, I think, springs out into my mind, and I think the author is trying to tell us, and I believe this is the intention, that the contrast to living in a depressed and vain world is to have hope. Because if everything's meaning, why live? I mean, hasn't that been the theme of Ecclesiastes? Hasn't been that the theme of if everything doesn't really matter, why try? No, why wake up in the morning? Why put on your shoes in the morning when it hurts? Why call that friend who's down? Why keep doing those things and not seeing the results? Because the writer here says, really it doesn't matter because everybody dies. Everybody just is wiped out and eventually is forgotten. Well, I think that Solomon is saying that there are things to enjoy. There are things not only to enjoy in heaven, but there are things to enjoy here on earth. It says, for the living know that they will die, but the dead don't know anything. So while you're here, you have knowledge. You can increase and educate yourself, and you can learn more about God's world. Because I think when we're in heaven, and when we're on the new heavens, and especially on the new earth, all that knowledge is not going to be thrown away. I think there's still going to be physical things. I think there's going to be running. I mean, I don't know. There's going to be need for water, and I don't know how it is. I don't think it's like Star Trek. In Star Trek, I don't know. I don't see them eating a lot. You ever watch the Star Trek movie? Of course, they don't have any system of economy. It's all a socialized system because they got rid of money. And so they have no money anymore. And they have these things called replicators, and they replicate food. But you don't see them doing that very much because it's just not the intent of the show. But I think that in heaven and on the new earth, we're going to eat. There's going to be grass, there's going to be plants, there's going to be things that are all around. That's just my supposition. I mean, the Bible doesn't say for sure there's going to be this and this and this and this. It does have an idea of waters and roads. And what does it mean to have streets? I mean, I was just thinking in my mind, streets of gold. You should plan your life, but it will end one day. But you can plan today. Rejoice in that. You can make a difference in other people's lives. You can participate. There's a benefit of just being with people. The people who have died, yes, they no longer influence people. Or they do through history. But you influence people. Every one of you tonight influences somebody else in your life. Whether it's your children, whether it's a friend, whether it's people in your church, we're all influencers. We all are leaders. You lead somebody. Someone leads you. You lead somebody else. That's what Paul did to Timothy when in 2 Timothy 2:2 he says, take these things that I've taught to you and share them with faithful men who will be able to teach others also. See, Paul looked at the influence he had over a young man by the name of Timothy. And he said, Timothy, take the things I'm teaching you, give them to someone else. Have you thought about doing that with somebody? helping somebody else, teaching them your wisdom and your abilities and your gifts, and telling them to teach that to someone else as well. See, the way you get hope in living is you see that there are truly benefits of still being here. You know, Paul said one of the things to be in heaven and to be here, to be with you. I am torn, for it is better for me to be in heaven, right? But he decided, he goes, I'd rather be with, he decided it's better right now to be with you, because everything I could do, the influence I could have. Because once I'm in heaven, I have no influence anymore. I have my writings, yes. And God inspired those writings, and of course, we read those writings all the time. But there are also, number 4, pleasures of this life that we are to enjoy that gives us hope. The preacher concludes that since there are benefits to be enjoyed in this life, you ought to labor to enjoy them. See, a lot of people will say, no, we need to be ascetic. We can't enjoy anything in life. If you enjoy anything in life, that's unspiritual. If you're happy about anything, you're not following God. Because a real spiritual person is really serious. And they close one eye, kind of like Popeye. They never laugh because they're dead serious. I don't think a Christian's that way. A Christian enjoys things. He enjoys the things that God has created. Look at what he says in verse 7. He says, go eat your bread and with joy and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already prepared what you do. So listen, if you're going to live your life, whether it's above or under the sun, enjoy what God has made. He's giving you food. Well, enjoy it. My wife tells me, her observation of my family is this, that the Leathermans eat. If there was a way that the Leathermans didn't have to eat, we would take that. Because it would say that my family doesn't, we don't eat to enjoy the food, we just eat because we have to. Eventually we just have to take in nourishment because we have to live. But we don't enjoy it. It's just something we have to do. Now, on the other hand, I have a cousin. His name is Dangerous Dan. Don't ask me why we just call him Dangerous for short. Okay, and Dangerous loves to eat. He loves to savor the food. My dad likes everything burnt. From bacon to roast beef, whatever it is, he says, I want it well done, but when you think you've done it well, you haven't. So he always he gets his meat and he takes it back to get burnt more. And that's the same way with bacon. He even orders his bacon burnt. And Dan, of course, he says, why? I want to enjoy the food that I eat. I want to enjoy what God has given. I mean, yes, we have to eat, but the Bible says we should enjoy those things. We can enjoy those things. It says in verse 8, look at the clothes that you wear. Let your garments be white, let not the oil be lacking on your head. Now, oil is what we would get like perfume. We want to smell good. Don't just, in life, enjoy. It says, don't get caught up in the fads, okay? I'm not saying, he's not saying, go out and buy yourself. I'm not telling you to go out and buy yourself a whole new wardrobe tonight, okay? Especially if you don't have the money to do it. I mean, they'll sell you anything out there, right? Clothes-wise. But it says here, it's not a bad thing to present yourself well. It's not a bad thing to clothe yourself and to appreciate clothing. I mean, eating and drinking are gifts of God. Clothing is a gift of God. And so we look at that and we say, black. Now in the Bible, black clothes and ashes on the head was a symbol of what? Mourning, wasn't it? And when you see white clothes and oil on the head, it was a sign of what? Rejoicing. So if you're dressed in white and you have oil on your head, you're rejoicing. You've put on the perfume, you've dressed yourself in clothes, and you're going to enjoy life. You're intending to enjoy something. That gives us hope. Ecclesiastes 7:2, it's almost the opposite of it. And it says it's better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting. The truth is, there needs to be balance. The wisdom literatures, when we interpret wisdom literature, they're proverbial sayings. And proverbial sayings are generally true. But there's always a counterpart to it. There's always a perspective to it, that there's balance. What Proverbs, if you read the book of Proverbs, it's trying to tell you, live your life in a balanced sort of way. Don't go to extreme over here and don't go to the extreme over here, because those extremes are ungodly. Those extremes will take you away from God. But if you understand the balance of life, they will help you. It talks about the married life. It says, enjoy life with the wife whom you love on all the days of your vain life. Now, your meaningless life that he has given you under the sun. Because this is your portion in life and your toil under the sun. Now, if you're married, we should enjoy our families. We should enjoy our wives. We should enjoy the relationships. Because one of the things is, it is terrible to do things in life alone. It's terrible to do things in life alone. It's hard to be alone. When my mom passed away, my dad almost I felt like he wanted me to be around him 24/7 almost, because he was lonely. And you know what? People are lonely out there. But those of you who are married, enjoy the time that you have together, because it won't always be. One of the things I realize is that there's only going to be one person that will never leave you. And that's not your wife, that's not your husband, it's God. Because unless you die in the plane crash, or unless you die in some tragedy, most likely one of you two will leave each other before the other. One of you will leave each other before the other. And we have no idea what that means. We have no idea when that will happen. We're to enjoy the life of marriage. Some of you have lost some. And you know the value of relationships, because we need those other relationships. We're relational people. And then he says the enjoyment of work. Verse 10, whatever your hands find to do it with all your might, for there is no work or thought or knowledge or wisdom in Sheol, into which you are going. I mean, if you're just dead, and now this is from the under the sun perspective, you might as well enjoy your work, because otherwise you're not going to enjoy it when you don't, from under the sun perspective, you're just going to the grave. I ask people all the time when I go in and order something, I said, you're having a good day, you're enjoying your work? And they said, I said, well, might as well enjoy it, because the opposite is really bad. I'd rather enjoy it and have a good day and enjoy what I'm doing, and that's a state of mind. So if you're going to have hope, you need to enjoy the pleasures of life, what God has given to you. Also enjoy by trusting I have hope because you trust God's wisdom in the outcomes of life. Look at verses 11 through 13. Again, I saw that under the sun, the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor the bread to the wise, nor the riches to the intelligent, nor favor to those with knowledge, but time and chance happen to all of them. For man does not know his time. Like fish that are taken in an evil net, and birds that are caught in a snare, so the children of man are snared at an evil time when it suddenly falls upon them. I have also seen an example of wisdom under the sun, and it seems great to me. He's saying here basically, listen, you don't know who's going to win. You don't know if what you do is going to help you succeed. You could start a business and you could fail. I mean, you intend to do everything right, and you could fail. You could start a race, and you could lose. It says you could go out to battle in war, and you could lose. I mean, look at the United States, and we pride ourselves on our military. But look how frustrating it is when smaller countries and guerrilla tactics and all the things that go on. And we don't we want to be able to get in, get out, and that's it. But we have no guarantee that we win. But in God's wisdom, if we trust God for the outcome, that outcome will be good for us. We have no idea if we're going to it says here, that we're going to have bread if we're smart, if we invest right. I'm sure a lot of people, thought that they were bulletproof in the 1980s when they were in the oil industry. They thought nothing could hurt them. And then the oil industry bottomed out. My dad lost his job. It was the most horrific event that happened in our family during that time because my dad had trusted his job to provide for him for 28, 30 years of his life. And many of his co-workers committed suicide because they didn't know what they were going to do. They had lost hope. They were like that gazelle. They were like that goat. That goat that just gave up. That's what we do. You know, their job was their God. That was their God. That's what sustained them. It wasn't God to them. It was their job. And once they lost their job, life didn't have any meaning. And God says, no, don't look at life that way. Trust in God's wisdom. If you lose something in life, don't trust that, oh, there it goes. Like, I'll never be able to achieve again. Life is meaningless now. That's the wrong attitude. God is still around. He's in control of those outcomes in your life. So trust Him. See, we tend to think that the race goes to the fastest. Not always. I guarantee you that the winner of the Super Bowl isn't always the best team. You know? The battle goes to the warriors. Sometimes wars are won, not because they have the best army, because God's in charge of the outcomes. Do y'all remember John Lennon? John Lennon is quoted by saying, "Life is that which happens to you while you're deciding what to do." He says basically, you're trying to figure out what life is, and it just happens. He saw no purpose for life, ultimately. He was gunned down. The preacher's point here, and Solomon's point, is that the story is never over. And the outcomes are what they are, but the story can continue on. Don't lose hope. And finally tonight, I want you to see God's way is best. Look at this little story in verses 14 through 18. There was a little city with a few men in it, and a great king came against it and besieged it, building great siege works against it. But there was found in it a poor, wise man, and he by his wisdom delivered the city. Yet no one remembered the poor man. But he says, "But I say wisdom is better than might. Though the poor man's wisdom is despised and the words are not heard, the words of the wise, heard in quiet, are better than the shouting of a ruler among fools. Wisdom is better than the weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good." See, the story is about a man in a city. It wasn't a very big city, as cities go. Didn't have very big walls. Didn't have very many people in it. And to make matters worse, it had a neighboring city. It was very big, very strong, very powerful. And it was not kindly to the smaller city. The city found itself surrounded and besieged on the verge of collapse. The small city had only one thing going for it. It had living within its walls a single poor man who possessed the quality of wisdom. And that was enough. To the wisdom of this one poor man, the city was delivered. But the rest is anticlimactic. You know, they forgot what the poor man said. They forgot what he advised. We tend to do that too. We listen to God sometimes. We listen to His will sometimes, but then we forget it, don't we? A pastor friend of mine, well, not a pastor friend, but a pastor person that I admire, I would say, had preached through every book of the Bible in his ministry. He was about 65 years old, and he says, you know, I guess I might as well retire. There's nothing else for me to do. I preached through every book of the Bible. I preached through every verse of the Bible. I guess there's really nothing else for me to do in ministry or in preaching. I might as well retire and do something else. And then he was shown these words in 2 Timothy. 2 Timothy says this. Paul, an apostle of Jesus Christ by the will of God, according to the promise of life that is in Christ Jesus, to Timothy, my beloved child, grace and peace from God the Father and Lord and Christ Jesus our Lord. I thank God whom I serve, as did my ancestors, with clear conscience, as I remember you constantly in my prayers night and day. As I remember your tears, I long to see you, that I may be filled with joy. I'm reminded of your sincere faith, and that dwelt first in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, and now I'm sure dwells in you as well. For this reason I remind you to fan the flame of the gift of God, which is in you, through the laying on of my hands. For God gave us not a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and self-control. You see, Paul said one of the ministries of pastoring, one of the ministries is to remind people what they already should know. It's not something that I have new and improved Christianity today. If we put that on the sign, new and improved Christianity, what do you think? Christianity doesn't go through new and improved. It's never under new management. It's not better than it was a billion years ago, not a billion, 500 years ago, or 1,000 years ago, or 2,000 years ago. It's the same. Hadn't changed. And one of the things he says to us, we need to remember God. We remember His wisdom. And we've all experienced God's wisdom. We know that God is faithful, right? We know God has come in and through for you in life. The wisdom is to be valued. But we forget it. We forget that God has wisdom better than anybody else. We trust ourselves. We trust our own wisdom. We trust, well, this seems best to me, and we don't go to God. We don't ask God any questions. We don't consult the Scriptures. We don't seek God's will on the matter. And so we do things that are strange and weird and dumb. But wisdom is valued more than strength. I'd rather be wise than strong. It is better to be wise in life than strong. The story is that this poor man had what counted the most. He had wisdom. Ultimately, the wisdom of God. Now, just because you have wisdom doesn't mean people are going to like you. You know? If you have wisdom, some people might not like your wisdom. But wisdom is wisdom. And whether it is in calf roping, whether it is in anything else, it is still wisdom. The world is blind to the wisdom of God. Don't be blind to it. Don't take it for granted. Remember it. Let me tell you, some people, they rather yell than have wisdom. They rather scream about the problems of our society than offer a solution for it. When he says in verse 17, back in Ecclesiastes, when he says in verse 17, the words of the wise heard in quiet are better than the shouting of a ruler among fools. It's better to listen to a wise man, to someone who's sounding the alarm that everything is bad and everything is going to be destroyed. Better to listen to a wise man than fools. And wisdom, finally, is better than weapons of war. You will be stronger in life if you have God's wisdom than all the weapons, all the horses, all the chariots, all the tanks. So if you're going to have hope, don't live it under the sun. Live it above the sun. Live it according to the wisdom of God. Realize His wisdom is best. Everything is in His hand. Everything that He has given on earth is good. Remember when God said to Adam and Eve, everything was what? Good? The trees, the fields, the animal, everything was good. It was made not only for Him, but also for our enjoyment. There is hope in this life. If you're here today without hope, don't leave here without hope. Don't leave here going around thinking, well, it's no use. My life is no good. I'm no use to anybody. Don't leave without hope, because that'll mean you're just ready to die. Have hope. As we come to the end of our service, as we sing Living for Jesus in number 282, live for Him. Don't just exist for Him. Live for the Lord Jesus Christ. Let me pray. Father, I pray that as we